Russia's nightmare. Estonia sends special forces to defend Ukraine's border. Estonia is seriously considering deploying troops to Ukraine to take on non-direct combat roles, according to Tallinn's National Security Advisor Madis Roll. The move would aim to free up more Ukrainian soldiers so they can support combat operations on the front. Discussions are ongoing. Roll told Breaking Defense, "We should be looking at all the possibilities. We shouldn't have our minds restricted as to what we can do." Roll said Estonia prefers making the move as part of a NATO-wide mission, but this is unlikely for now, as the alliance refuses to be directly involved in the war. Because of that, the government official has not ruled out the possibility of Tallinn acting in a smaller coalition to avoid war escalation. If finalized, the Estonian troops would be sent to western Ukraine to provide medical services and logistics support. The idea of sending NATO troops to Ukraine was first floated by French President Emmanuel Macron earlier this year, as Russia was reportedly gaining the upper hand. He said no option can be excluded to ensure that Moscow will not win this war. Many people who say never ever today were the same people who said never tanks, never planes, never long-range missiles 2 years ago. Macron stated, "Let us have the humility to note that we have often been 6 to 12 months late." The US and the UK have both ruled out the possibility of directly involving their militaries in the conflict. But Canadian Defense Minister Bill Blair showed some interest in the idea, saying the country could send troops to the war-ravaged nation, but for non-combat roles only. Estonian Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur, on May 14, told the European news outlet ERR such talks haven't gone anywhere in Tallinn. There is nothing new here. When France came up with the idea of considering whether Europe and the Allies could do more, it has been floated in various discussions, but it has not gone anywhere, because at the moment there is no clear understanding among the Allies of what it adds. Pevkur told ERR, "There is certainly no initiative by Estonia, and certainly Estonia alone is not going to do anything." Roll's boss, Estonian President Ellar Karas, holds a position with many ceremonial duties relative to the nation's Prime Minister, Kaja Kallas, but he is ultimately Estonia's commander-in-chief and is a key figure in foreign policy. Roll's comments came after the head of Estonia's defense forces, Gen Martin Herem, told Breaking Defense earlier last week there had been discussions in the military months ago about sending troops to western Ukraine to take on jobs like medical services, logistics, or air defense for some western cities. But the air had gone out of those talks after the idea became a public lightning rod. Herem and Pevkur were referring to the outcry that followed French President Emmanuel Macron's declaration that Western nations must be open to discussing sending their troops in to aid Ukraine. Kallas, the Estonian PM, in March appeared to defend Macron's statement, noting that he wasn't talking specifically about sending ground troops into combat. "In the exact same way, I can assure you that our soldiers will not go there to fight," she said. Also earlier last week, a key Estonian lawmaker, Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Marko Mihkelson, told Breaking Defense that European nations have to start thinking about a coalition of the willing to more directly help Kyiv, potentially with direct combat forces. The Estonian officials spoke last week to an audience from the Kaplan Public Service Foundation. Breaking Defense accepted accommodation in Estonia from KPSF. The willingness of different nations to send some forces into Ukraine is a potential dividing line inside NATO. Although each member of the alliance is free to send forces where it feels it must for its national interests, some nations have been clear they see more risk than reward in doing so. Notably, Germany and the US have flatly rejected the idea of sending in troops. The US ambassador to Estonia, George Kent, pointed Breaking Defense to the Biden administration's policy of aiding Ukraine through significant aid packages, but a firm commitment not to send in American soldiers. Asked May 9 in Washington how Russia could react to NATO nation forces being in Ukraine, British Chief of Defense Admiral Sir Tony Radakin was evasive, saying, "I won't go into too much commentary on your question. If you don't mind, The UK position is very clear in terms of, that's not a path that the Prime Minister wants to go down. However, he emphasized that the UK position is not being governed by how Russia will react. Instead, he said, it is based around what the UK views as the best approach overall. I think that what you've seen all the way through is a UK that has done the right thing, based on its judgment of what's needed to be done.